So does my sound okay? Can you all?
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Sonia. Hi, Kristen.
Hello.
And we're live, by the way, on YouTube. I think. There we go. It's very mind-bending because when I look over at my other screen, which is this way, then I'm staring at myself, staring inside, and then it gets very, my brain can't deal with the geography involved.
You guys weren't using Zoom before this, were you? Were you
No.
using Zoom? No. I'd never heard of it before, and suddenly everyone was using it. So
Yeah, it's interesting as so GoToMeeting I've used before, WebEx we've used before, mostly for to participate in webinars from other people. But you know, we were looking at a tool that would integrate automatically with Facebook Live and with with YouTube Live, and this one we wanted it. There's a lot of different ways to get this video that we're producing here onto either YouTube or Facebook Live or any of those things, and all of them are decent, but this one is integrated into the same software, so that's why we went this way. Upper Hudson just purchased a they have a grant and they purchased a GoToMeeting account for every library that signed the agreement with them. So at the very least, every library in Upper Hudson has the ability to host a virtual meeting. You know, they have the software and the infrastructure. The cost isn't blocking them from being able to do this.
okay.
So you know, and so we'll use that. It's basically part of a workforce development grant. So we will be using it to do workforce development classes from the Public Services Department. That's how we're going to be using that particular piece of software. We're gonna, you know, so we've got this Zoom that we use for sort of official meetings. We have another Zoom that is run through the Public Services Department, and they are doing all the story times, that sort of program. We'll have the GoToMeeting that will host workforce classes, and then other maybe adult-oriented classes. And then you know, and then that's how we'll do this virtual stuff. We'll have plenty of ability to run that, and that way we were running into collisions where I had to run a long-range plan committee meeting, but then at the same time, one of the librarians need to set up for the story time. So we had to get the separate usernames for those two things. And we're finding it better to have, you know, to cast this out as a webinar, and then the public can participate on, pointing that way because that's where my screen is, on YouTube, and email me with questions, though no one has taken me up on that yet. So,
Do you have any way to know how many people are participating through YouTube?
we can look at it. Yes, it'll tell us how many people are watching. So right now we've got 3 people watching, and I know one of them is me. So I'm imagining one of them is Kristen. So that's 2.
Yeah, no, I turned mine off just because I get weird feedback. So
Okay.
So we've got 2 mystery people watching.
Mystery people from the public watching. So that's good.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. Can more than one team use the video thing for Microsoft Teams at a time, or do we have to stagger them?
So Microsoft Team, no, we don't have to stagger those meetings. We can
Okay.
have multiple meetings going on at the same time. And we know that that's true because we've had that happening. So, aha, another country heard of. So some of our mystery people are known now. So yeah, on Microsoft Teams, just because that's part of Office 365, we can have multiple calls, but that was, it wouldn't allow us to broadcast out. We had a different piece of software or an upgraded an upgraded version of the software to allow the broadcast out of Teams. It didn't integrate, and it doesn't allow, anyway, functionally, I don't think it was as good a choice. So, and now I'm pretty sure I know who everybody is who's watching.
Okay.
They're all library insiders, I think. Hi, Harmeet. We are live on YouTube Live, just so you know. Welcome to the meeting.
Hi,
Good
Harmeet.
Hello.
Everybody's fashionably late joining. Or
I know, last
fashionably,
time
like
everyone-
right on time.
Yeah.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi,
Hey there.
Caroline.
There we go. Nope. Got it. I'm
How you doing?
doing okay. How's everyone else doing?
Good.
Hi, all.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Lisa.
How's everybody?
Good.
Good.
You're all on YouTube.
Oh, Michelle, I liked your background there for a minute. It looked like you were in the
Yeah.
library.
Well,
I was
I
in,
saw it came up automatically, and I thought, well, I should probably get rid of that.
I was impressed. For a moment, I was like, is that her bookshelf? Because that looks pretty good.
Oh. Yeah. How are you feeling, Caroline?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
When do you do?
Likely, they're telling me, I think the first week of August. So
August. Okay.
yeah, so I'm prepared for late July, early August. I don't know if I'm going back into the office. It's really strange
Yeah. Hard
because
to-
I think we'd be at full strength maybe by July is when they'd let full offices back.
Maybe.
I mean, at that point, you're in the ramp down and I can build. It turns out that we can all do our stuff from home just as well.
Gonna say everybody's learned how to do it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, plus, I don't want people touching me.
True.
I happened to run into Joyce Becker and I was talking to her generally about stuff. And she said, you know, it's amazing what we've learned about what people can do in jobs that you wouldn't have thought were conducive to working from home. But there's a lot that people can do from working from home. I mean, that's probably not news to you, but a lot of places have not done telework up until now.
No, it's been interesting. I think just sort of making the base assumption that we're going to find a way to do it remotely, right, changes the way people attack the problem, and they figured out all kinds of very creative ways to do things that you assume would require someone to stand physically next to somebody else and look at a part or look at a process. I'm getting very comfortable with it. I may never want to go back to the office at this rate.
I know a lot of people who don't want to go back to the office.
It's funny, I know a lot of people that do. They miss the atmosphere. They miss
It's like
being in the
50-50.
work environment.
I
I
do
think I
miss
would,
that.
if I were still working, I think I'd have a hard time with the separation of work and home. It would all blur together.
It definitely does.
Yeah. What day is it?
I have to ask that most mornings. when I get up.
Hi, Brian. One.
Is he on with audio? There he is.
Just waiting for Mark. Give him a couple of minutes because I didn't get any notice that he wasn't going to attend, so. Is everybody able to get their agenda up in front of them, or did they at least print it out so they'd have it? By the way, everybody, you're live on YouTube, but I didn't say it.
Yeah, I've got my agenda up.
Do we have a candidate update to start when we get the meeting started?
We don't.
We don't.
No.
They didn't have a finalized list?
No, I think they were due today at 5, so I would expect an email from the school district. It could have come in tonight at
Now.
5, but it did not. So
Right.
Were there a significant number? Were there a few candidates by the end of last week?
I believe so. Yes, we don't have the details, but I think we had 4-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, I talked to Brittany earlier today, and at that point she said 4, possibly 6.
At least you talked to her more recently than I have.
Well, she forgot to send me a form that was due today, so
Ah.
I had to fill it out kind of last minute.
She's good. All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started in the interest of just staying on time. And if Mark needs us to backtrack on something, we can do that. So we will call the meeting to order for the Bethlehem Public Library. We are live on YouTube. I think what we'll do tonight is start out, since we have public participation, a little bit differently. We'll go around and introduce the library director and the board members. I'm Mary Redmond, the current president of the board.
I'm Jeff Kirkpatrick, the library director.
Hi, I'm Caroline Brancatella, secretary.
Michelle Walsh, trustee.
Harmeet Narang, trustee.
Brian Sweeney, one of the 2 vice presidents of the board.
I'm Lisa Scoons. I'm a current trustee and UHLS liaison.
Okay, and we are thinking that one more trustee may join us while we are in session, Mark Kissinger, who is the second vice president of the board. So with that, I think we'll go ahead. Like I said, there may be public participation that we won't necessarily know about unless they throw in a question. So we will move right on to the approval of the previous meeting minutes on pages 2 through 7 of your board packet. Thanks for getting those out to us, Kristen.
If everyone's okay, I'd be happy to move to approve the minutes as incorporated into the board packet.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, the minutes are accepted. The financial report on pages 8 through 16 and the treasurer's report. Jeff, I think, is going to present that to us.
So basically, most of the library's money is at TD Bank with a small balance at Key Bank. That account is just there. That we will be taking our cash deposits at some point in the future. Right now, we don't have cash deposits, so we're not using that account. It's just basically a placeholder. Our interest rates did slide a little bit, as you would expect in the current financial market, and then we had the final cash receipt for April of the property tax money for $96,145 that came in as the sort of final payment, as the state made the county whole and the county made the school district whole, and we were made whole for the final payment of property taxes.
Are there any questions or discussion before we have a motion?
And I have a language for a suggested motion. It would be motion to approve the financial statement dated the 30th of April 2020, manual disbursements of $63,622.72, trust and agency disbursements and salary for April of $193,413.58, cash disbursements and account payable for May of $70,321.92, and capital project fund hand-drawn checks for February of $0.
Thank you.
One
And I
quick
just-
question before we make a motion, Jeff, on page 10.
Yep.
The year-to-date variance for this year versus last year is about 136,000. Any idea if that's on track with where we thought we'd be at this point in the year?
When we're talking about property taxes, we were expecting to be higher, right? Is that
Yes, we received $136,000 more in the month of April 2020 compared to the month of April 2019. So yes, that makes sense. Our tax levy was a little higher when they voted last May, so we received more money. It actually should have been a little more higher had the library been open and we received some, fines, lost books, and et cetera. But those numbers for the month of April did not change for April 2020. So it's the same as it was for the month of March 2020. We haven't been open to collect any fines or anything.
Gotcha. Okay. And for expenses, the variance year over year is about the same. Is that also where we thought we'd be at this point in the year?
Yes, it roughly runs a little more than $300,000 or a month, and a lot of ours for April was the electronic expenses as opposed to actual physical books. We did a ton more in overdrive. There's in detail, if you look at on page 11, the ebooks, we had $32,000 just in the month of March that we spent on ebooks through overdrive, essentially. So, but it's roughly in line.
Okay, thanks.
So if we're ready, I need a motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report with the big verbiage that Jeff stated.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? None. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the personnel report on page 17.
so? The only new portion of this report is that the district library treasurer resigned his position, and so that is now an open position. You'll see that listed under actions requested, and this would be the place where we could discuss that.
Do we need to discuss it here, or can we go into executive session at the end?
I don't think we can go into executive session to discuss the position in general. Would be when you go to discuss the individual candidate.
Okay. Can we hold off on this discussion until we see if Mark joins us? I'd like to loop back because I think he had some comments on this or had some ideas. So I would prefer not to do the discussion twice if he joins us. Okay. If that doesn't bother anybody, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Nothing earth shattering. It's just, I would like to include everybody. Okay. So we will loop back to the whole personnel report. Is that okay, Jeff?
Great.
Okay. We'll move on to the director's report on pages 18 through 30.
Okay, so basically the same as last month. I put in a lot of the activities that each department and work units are doing. I wanted to be able to paint the picture of all the work that's going on right now for you as a trustee. So I hope you appreciate that. At the same time, if you go after the narrative report, you will see a new statistical report that, because our traditional statistical report, this was the first month where we were closed for the entire month of April. So the traditional measures of circulation and all these traditional measures on my statistical report just look terrible. The percent changes are negative 100% on all of these things, right? Because there was essentially no physical circulation during the month of April. So I included in your packets some of the virtual statistics and just we're trying to track. We have new things that we're trying to track, and I wanted to be able to report that out to you again to try to tell the story to you all about the services that we are able to provide to the community and the uses that we're seeing, and some of the things we've been able to find from that. So I'll run very quickly through this. We can clearly see from our social media platforms on page 25, you can see that Facebook continues to be our biggest form of engagement with our customers. Now, that said, in next month's report, Facebook has once again decided to change how it measures engagement. And so we may be seeing some changes in that. So comparing month to month may be difficult for us. But no matter how you measure this, Facebook is clearly our biggest form of engagement, with Twitter next, and then YouTube coming up. And the YouTube, the engagement on YouTube is clearly us doing meetings like this on YouTube and broadcasting those out, as well as the programs that are being done by the public services, the Storytime programs and other programs that we're putting on YouTube to try to engage with people. So you're seeing a rapid ramp up in YouTube. We've had the YouTube account for years. We've used it for a number of different purposes, but now it's sort of putting in yeoman's to be able to help us reach out to our patrons. On that same page, on page 25, you'll see e-content usage. Month over month is a monthly comparison. As we ramped up from February to March and April, you see Overdrive continues to be by far our biggest, most widely used platform, with more than 8,000 uses circulations last month. And Flipster, which is our magazine database, has been relatively flat. So I think it has an audience. The audience likes to use it, but it's not necessarily gaining in this time right now. Canopy clearly continues to make some good gains. The overall use is obviously lower than Overdrive, but again, the content that is available, there's fewer things that are available in Canopy than are in Overdrive, and we've had Overdrive a lot longer. And then Hoopla is this last little addition, which will be ramping up for next month too. So those are statistics we'll be watching for next month, because Hoopla is our new platform, our new digital platform that provides ebooks and audiobooks and comic books and music and video. So it's it's a cross-platform, cross-format platform for people to be able to engage with that. And clearly, our patrons are liking that service, which is good. We have some database statistics in there. The increases on page 27 from March to April, just the number of virtual programs we've done as we really got our feet under us, as we were closed halfway through March. We had to figure out exactly what we were doing, and then the virtual reference, so whether it's email or phone calls, we're trying to track those to make sure that we're representing those appropriately and making sure that we can track those things properly, so we can know what the use is. Now, that use, even as the library begins to reopen here at some point, we don't expect that all of this virtual engagement is just going to drop off the edge of the cliff, because the library won't be open in the same way it will be. And traditionally, we'll continue to have to keep all of these digital platforms. That's why a lot of the skills that the staff are gaining to be able to put their programs online and to engage with the community digitally will continue to be very important as we move forward, because these kind of things will not be dropping off. Think about programming, for instance. The idea that we would have 100 people in a room to watch an author is just not likely to be part of our future anytime soon. So those are good. I did like on page 28, just very quickly, sort of counterintuitively, I like things that make my brain think differently about something. This is a website usage. So the website stats on the day we closed dropped off a cliff, and it would think, oh, more people would be using the website because that's how they would engage with us. But of course, every computer, every staff machine, and every public machine automatically opens to the library's homepage. when we're there, right? So think about those computers all day long, opening up and opening our homepage, boom. And so now what you're seeing is included in that larger number, the actual number of people from the outside who are engaging with the website on a day-to-day basis.
Jeff,
And then, yeah.
I'm curious about virtual reference. So
Yes.
when I'm looking at that bar that shows 140 virtual reference calls, I'm
Yes.
wondering, do you have some sense of what kinds of calls we're getting? Are like 120 of them, when are you going to reopen? You know, and 20 are sort of more substantive questions, or what?
No, I can actually answer this. I have a very good answer to this. So the kinds of questions are like, when are we going to open? Those tend to come to me, and I don't actually count those as reference questions. Maybe I should, but in any case, I tend to receive those where people are saying, when are we going to open? Or I have a great idea. We should have curbside pickup. And I'm like, yes, you're right. As soon as we are allowed to, we will be doing that. So those are kind of, we don't count those as reference transactions. What it is mostly, and has been a lot of, is phone reference for for people who have not traditionally used Overdrive or Hoopla before. How do they download the app onto whatever their device is? Once they have it downloaded, I ordered a brand new Kindle. How do I get this ebook on my Kindle? I heard the library has ebooks. And then we have to have our librarians have to be very familiar, because as you can imagine, doing over the phone tech reference is hard when you're trying to talk through. And it's only because they're so familiar with the products that they have so far 100% success rate of getting people to the point where they're able, when they call us, to get them to the point where they can download and access their ebooks and their e-audiobooks. So that tends to be the substantive questions that we're having, along with a sprinkling of other kinds of questions. But that's there's the other major part would be sort of account questions, right? So what's going on with my account? I was unable to access Hoopla, and it could be a problem with the way the account was set up, or something like that.
Great, thank you.
And of the e-formats, I will say that e-audiobooks have remained relatively flat. And again, that's because a lot of people that listen to audiobooks do so in their cars during the commute, right? So if there's not a commute, that use of that format is not going up as much as I would have expected. It's the ebooks and the comic books and those sort of reading material that we're seeing the great increases in. So that's an interesting statistic for me. I did want to just we have to talk about the email campaign. Kristen brought forward and launched a new email newsletter, and we have rarely had such a clear indication of use. We had marketed Hoopla previously in a couple of different ways to try to get the word out, but I had a report of the number of users that we had before Kristen's email campaign went out, and then a report immediately after her email campaign went out, and the number almost doubled to, we're almost at 1,000 people who have opened up Hoopla. So we know that email reaches a wide audience. The unsubscribe rate has been surpassingly slow, like less than about 1/3% of people who receive it. We weren't sure if people wanted an unsolicited email from us, but I think it's certainly there are click-throughs. The click-through percentage is pretty good, almost 10%, and the opened, it's more than half of the people who received it opened. So that's a real way for us to engage with people right now. We're trying to keep it to one a week, keep it short. 3 important items, maybe one about a service, one about what's going on at the library, and then information about the trustee vote or the budget or something like that. Just try to keep it simple and keep it to the information you need. So that's I'm very, very pleased with that email campaign. So other than that, I can just tell you that the librarians and the rest of the staff are working very hard to make sure that we can provide as much service as we can to the public under our current scheme, how we're allowed to have services. And then a lot of work has gone in every work unit into planning how we reopen the library in a safe way and make sure that we can bring back physical services in some way, shape, or form, because I know the public is really asking. And again, super nice. Everybody understands exactly what's going on. They have been very pleasant to me, but of course, people are just really interested in knowing what the library is going to come back. And it is, unfortunately, I can't give them a hard date yet, but we are, just keep reassuring them that we're planning to come back as quickly as we can.
Jeff, any idea how many email addresses we're hitting with each one of those weekly notes?
Yeah, it's more than 10,000. Kristen could probably give you an exact answer, but it's over 10,000 emails.
Yeah,
Chose-
it's just over 10,000.
Chose to email it to Bethlehem card holders who have birthdays that are over 18.
Those open statistics are amazing. Like, you don't see those kinds of open statistics. They're really good.
I think that's exactly an artifact of it being, a very targeted audience, and
When you say the mailing goes out to Bethlehem card holders,
Yep.
everyone who has a card, everyone who's had a card and used it in X period of time, what is the criteria?
So sorry, Kristen, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. Catherine's the one that collected the names, but it's everyone who has a card that is currently active, Bethlehem library card, 18 and older, in good standing.
Okay, but what does currently active mean? I guess that's my question.
Just
There's an expiration date between cards have a 3-year lifeline. They expire and then we update their address and make sure their phone number is okay. So active means not expired.
Okay. So there may be people that haven't even used it in a while and you're getting a very low, kickback rate. That's great. Good. Okay. Any more discussion or questions for Jeff?
One other question on the social media feedback, the Facebook
Yes.
metric. Is the y-axis there just number of hits or number of posts?
It's engagement. It's a Facebook determined number.
Is there an easy way to explain it? And if there isn't, it's okay.
Kristen is demurring to answer that question.
I think it
Fair.
shows up in someone's feed. We think that's what Facebook engagement is.
I think, yeah, if it's through a share, it somebody saw it, and that's the same as the YouTube engagements that you see there. Not necessarily everyone who watched the video, which is a lot lower. It's just everybody who saw, oh, hey, the library has made a YouTube video and it's been shared. So it's like just visual space that we have gained, not necessarily an interaction.
Gotcha. Okay. Eyeballs rather than interaction.
Right.
All set with the director's report?
I am.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. That was great. We do, again, we appreciate all you guys are doing. It's been an extremely creative time for you guys to do this, so that's been great. I see that Mark has joined us. Good to see you, Mark. We went through the treasurer's report and then we went into the personnel report, and I'm going to flip back to us because we were talking about the newly vacant treasurer position. So we were going to discuss that when you got on. Okay. So Jeff, I'm going to go back to you.
Okay. So this personnel report, which is right after the financial report, we have listed this position, and we use the same sort of information we used to post it. We haven't posted anything, the same information last time. So the question is, how would the board like to proceed with filling this position?
I do want to point out that the other library positions, you are waiting to fill them. Okay, so everything else is on hold. So not that will drive our decision, but I want to make sure everybody is aware of that factor. We've had this position at the library for just shy, or filled at the library for just shy of a year and a half. And I think, Jeff, I don't want to push this because I was one of the ones that pushed hiring the position. So do we want to fill this position at this time? That's my first question. Part of it would be Jeff and Tanya. You've had some of the closest interaction. Are we interested in filling it right now? Do we want to wait?
Yeah, I want to amplify that question. Is it a need that we have to fill like in the next 2 months? Or what's the exposure if we don't fill it? And I understand that when this position was created, there was like a it was a requirement of the controller's office. So like, if we're out of compliance, like where do we run afoul of that? That's the other question I had.
Right. I think that I think it's one of those things where it's important to have that other set of eyeballs, the board's appointed eyeballs on the financial report. It's not going to affect our ability to do business now. We have the matrix of financial duties all set up. We have our cascading replacements for who's who, but obviously it's designed to work properly with that position. Just from a practical standpoint, I was talking with Mary briefly that we could possibly we could post, we could solicit from the previous applicants. We had some good applicants previously, and then we could try to do interviews over Zoom. We have Zoom platforms, so it's I don't think it's a super pressing need, but I think it's something that needs to be addressed in the medium.
Yeah, my sense is that we should post, but maybe put the deadline out a little bit. Like post to show that we're actively looking for someone, but maybe put it out like a couple weeks or whatever. It's not like an immediate something we need tomorrow, but I think it's always good to post because you don't know who didn't apply before, and if the candidates that we had before are still interested, they'll apply. So.
Okay, well, I'll talk to Tracy. And
that's my, I'd like to hear from other board members, of course. So.
Before we even go there, Tanya, do you have anything to add about refilling the position? Are you, my sense is working with you and Jeff, it has been a good fit in that it has helped distribute some of the financial responsibilities to a third person, primarily to a second financial person, and take a lot of it off Jeff and provide more support to Jeff and the board. But Tanya, what do you think?
He certainly, that position certainly assisted with budgeting and whatever, but as far as what I do, I did it for 7 years before. So it's not going to overwhelm me if I have to do it without that position again. Like I said, I did it for 7 years before the position was filled. So, I can certainly do it for another year or so if it takes that long to fill it. It's not anything that I feel, particularly because we're not in the library and it is a position that would really need to be hands-on and in the library to learn all of our procedures and everything. We could certainly interview, but I don't think it would be anybody could start anytime soon. Let's just put it that way. And I wouldn't be completely overwhelmed if it's something that I had to do myself again.
I think you raised a very good point about, waiting to bring the person on until, I would also add to Tanya's comment. Aside from the fact that you've done all of this for a long time and you did handle it, I want to reiterate that that's exactly why one of the reasons we hired a treasurer was to have a second person. I feel very strongly it is not a good situation to have one person who has all the financial responsibility and has to worry about whether payroll is going to be paid when they go on vacation, because we ran into that, but there was a problem when you were on vacation. It was a perfect example of why we need a backup a second financial person. Okay.
And I agree. I just, things being what they are and where we are right now, it's not imperative. There's nowhere to go on vacation at this point anyway.
I know you do whatever we need you to do. I get it. And we appreciate it. Believe me, we appreciate it.
So it's something that I don't think we need to rush into because we do need to be in the building in order to really properly train that person.
Okay.
But I think the point is important, and one of the things that this whole current situation has pointed out is redundancy is super important, right, and critical to the organization. So I think having those backups is important.
So Jeff, maybe the next step would be working with Tracy. We would put together a posting. We'd have to, I think Tanya raises some good ideas about it. We put some language in there. I think that maybe we could have some discussions between the committee members and who did the interviews. If there is anybody from the last round that we want to reach out to and say, hey, we're posting again. Would you still be interested? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I agree with Mark too. It's good to put it out there and let other people know and see what kind of a pool we can get.
Yeah. So I think I'll talk with Tracy. I'll work with her, and we'll pull that posting. She has it, and we'll pull that posting and run it by all of you and send it out.
Does that suit everybody else on the board? Does that seem reasonable? Because this really is a board position. Reports to the board is for our support. So I just want to make sure everybody's in agreement with the need. Questions or comments? Okay. All right. We'll move forward, as we can. Okay. Thank you. I don't think we need we have to pass the personnel report. We have to vote on, or we have to.
Because this individual would be voted on, I will not be hiring this individual. This person can be voted directly by the board. Your vote will happen as the candidate is selected. So.
Okay, so we don't have any action to do for the personnel report right now.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Were there any other questions? Mark, did you have any questions?
Yeah,
on the personnel
I
report?
didn't look at the personnel report that closely, but I did have a personnel idea that I can bring up now, or a new business, whatever you want to do. But in thinking about, when I guess at the unpause period, or when we start to come back awake,
Yes.
there's going to be a lot of really smart young people who won't be able to be hired, or will be competing for other limited opportunities in the workplace. A lot of college kids coming home without summer jobs, and those type of things, because that's starting to erode over time. So I was wondering if the library could, you guys could think about a program where we put 4 or 5 smart young kids on board, in either paid or unpaid, to work on the technology aspect of the library, and also try to give some youth infusion from personal point of view for like a couple months, and just offer as an opportunity, because it's going to be I think you're going to have a lot better candidate pool that you would have in a non-COVID unwaking period. So I just throw that as an idea.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we'll take a peek at that. We have to, well, anyway, yeah, that's civil service always throws a wrinkle in all that stuff, but we will, we'll keep that in the back of our head, see what we can do.
Yeah, and there may be a way to do it like, I guess I hesitate saying around civil service, but maybe doing it in partnership with them and a limited opportunity. There may be some opportunities to do it, outside collective bargaining or something. I just think you have this talent pool, and that you're not going to have, in years ahead, that we might want to be able to take advantage of. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Jeff, how would civil service come into play for I would assume a part-time summer position, paid or unpaid? How does civil service impact that?
So for anything that's technology related, that's going to be a classified position. It's not, some positions are like the pages or something in maintenance department. Those are labor class, and so they're classified labor. So there's not a test for those. For any of these other positions, I doubt you could classify anything technology as labor class. So the option might be a temporary hire, right? So that then is because it has a bound on it. There's a fixed period of time. So that may be a way that we could move forward with that.
Yeah, and it might not be, I was just thinking technology just because of the, the interest level there, but there might be something else that we could also take a look at. There might, might be some other opportunities that you can look at, that you can bring people in for, couple months, and, that you won't have in the future. So that's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, anything else on the personnel report? Okay, we don't need to vote on that. We've completed the director's report. We will move on to the UHLS report. Lisa?
We're scheduled to meet this coming Wednesday remotely. not a lot going on in terms of the larger board, but the subcommittee that I sit on, the services committee, is pretty busy with the annual awards review for, we are going to be giving those out despite the fact that we canceled the annual meeting. And also we're going to start some conversations regarding the grant applications and guidelines for those. So a lot of things coming up for this summer. But that's it.
Okay, thank you. So are you doing everything remotely with them? Is that how you guys are meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Jeff, your subscription you want to talk about?
On page 31, you'll see there I've included a subscription proposal for lynda.com, which is a training website. And right now we're focused on, we know that workforce development and job retraining is going to be one of the critical roles that the library has during this unpause, as Mark says. And lynda.com is the database to provide that sort of service. We've tried a number of different software and skills training databases, and we have had them and don't have them now because we weren't satisfied with them. And we just thought right now, trying to bulk up our electronic services, that lynda.com would be a good time for us to add that in. The subscription would start in this fiscal year, right? So we would pay for it out of this fiscal year, but then the benefit would be for during most of the rest of next fiscal year. And you know, in the spring, we will know where we are and know how much of a need it is to continue. We'll have use statistics, and then we could make a decision on whether to continue that for another year or multiple years in the future. We've always shied away from it a little bit because the price tag is a little bit higher, but I think at this point, from my perspective, it's important that we offer out good, solid, authoritative training on software skills, and all of these sort of workforce development skills that we need to be using. In addition, we can use it for staff training, which we know is also important as a way for us to provide more training to the staff that can be working on software skills at the same time.
Jeff,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Who is the population that we would envision serving? Would it just be Bethlehem Public Library? Would it be, you know, and what if we get overwhelmed if it goes out to too broad a group? Could we consider that?
This is there's an authentication process. So this product, unlike some of our other products which are purchased through the Uprights and Library System and are available to everybody in Albany, Rensselaer County, this is not a per use product. It's a subscription. So once you subscribe to it, and then you pay a fixed price, and then you have that for the year. For unlimited views, and then it is you have to have a Bethlehem Public Library card to be eligible to use the software.
Okay.
So it authenticates off your library account.
Do we know if any of the other UHLS member libraries have used this service?
So New York Public has it, and we've been using it. We've been trialing it through there, and then we have had the competitors for this product, which we have found to be the Public Service Department has found to be not as good. We have had those ourselves in the past, or other libraries had them, and we were able to get a subscription or a username for those and preview them. And putting all of that together, I think the Public Service Department staff was very clear that this was the product they were interested in offering to the public. So it's over my authorization limit at $7,000 for the subscription for the year. So I'm seeking your permission to purchase that.
So what exactly is it again? It's a workforce development training type.
It's a very comprehensive series of training videos for all sorts of software training, job skills training, interview skills. It's owned by LinkedIn, lynda.com. It's kind of the Cadillac name for training videos.
Great.
And what's the target audience? Is like anyone looking for a job, or just anyone?
I mean, certainly I think that's going to be part of it, but anybody who's looking to enhance their skills, you know, I'm focusing on the software portions of it. There's lots of other parts of this database, but for software skills, we've had, you know, people who are pretty familiar with different softwares looking at the different levels of the software skills, and they found it to be very useful to them. So,
yeah. And is there like how to use it thing, like a
Tutorial.
tutorial so that when we
Yeah,
unveil it,
there
like
is.
okay.
A
That's great.
video about the video.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm supportive. That sounds great. Yeah.
Was that a motion? And
Yeah, I'll move to make a motion to approve the software thing that Jeff talked about.
Lynda.com.
Lynda.com. There you go.
Second,
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank
Thank
you. Okay, we will move on to the budget for 2021 and the election process update. Jeff?
Right, so most of this actually you already know already. So I just was just a way to bring this up to speed. There was an executive order that came out that changed the nature of the way that trustee election worked, and that the budget was going to go out. Bless you. The school district will send out a mailer that will include our budget and our trustee election, and people will vote and return that to the school district. So that is a fully different process than it has ever happened before. So the deadline to register as the signature requirement was eliminated for the first time, as far as I'm aware. And then the deadline was tonight at 5 o'clock to return that information to the school district to appear on the ballot.
so Jeff, when you say a mailer, it will include a ballot?
Yes, so you'll be voting via mail.
So it will include then for every person in the household over 18 who's a registered voter? I just wonder, are they actually going to mail 4 versions of something to one household, or? Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Oh, I'm assuming.
how it plays out.
Yes, absolutely. They put there's information about the voter rolls now. I'm 100% sure that they will be mailing multiple mailers to certain houses. Yes.
Okay.
So you are under the impression it's a paper ballot. I kind of thought we were going to go online someplace and do it. No?
Yeah, I think it's a paper thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
also I heard that you can write in people on the absentee ballot, but there'll be people listed as kind of registered to vote for, but you can also write in others.
Okay.
Yeah. Should be interesting.
Okay. We do have one incumbent running. Again, we have 2 seats and one incumbent, Lisa Scoons, who is going to be running for the board. And I fully support Lisa. She's done a great job for us. So. Okay. Any other questions about the election process? And do we want to talk at all about the 2021 budget?
Well, just a question about elections. I just noticed as we were talking, I got an email notification and the Board of Education nominee list has gone out. So I just wonder if Jeff maybe has received an email as we've been meeting here about that by chance. About the library candidate.
I don't have it in my email yet. I'm sure Kristen's checking too. She hasn't received it yet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll put that information out as widely as we can as soon as we have it.
Brian, where did that come from? Where did the email come from? The school district?
From the district, yes.
Okay.
Okay, anything on the budget? I thought the rewrite looked very good. Thank you. I guess that was mostly Kristen, so thank you. You did a great job, as usual.
So is that, so that's on page 32. Is that any updates or suggested changes to the budget letter?
No, I thought it looked great. We don't need to vote on that.
No, looks good.
Okay.
So that will be, that's one question. So at this election, that will be, the citizens will also be voting on the budget. At the,
I'm sorry, Mark. It broke up a little bit. Just one more
so
time.
at this absentee ballot election for trustees, we're also going to be having the people of the district will also be voting on the budget.
Yes.
Even though that's not required, but we're going to do it anyway.
Correct. So we had a budget that was approved back in February that was sent to the that was sent to the district. That's all before all this happened, but that budget will be included on that along with the trustee election. Correct.
Okay. All right.
Our budget is always on the ballot.
Right,
Yeah.
but I understand, but Jeff was telling me that it doesn't have to be every year. It just that's a tradition that we have in our town, in our library. So
Yeah. We put if we don't go out for a vote, the levy would be the same as for the previous year. So some libraries, some school district libraries around New York State will only go out once every 3 years or 5 years. But then on that 5th year, they might see a larger increase. So working with our public, they like to see that every year that we go out for the needed increase, put that in front of them each year, just like the school district.
Okay. Learn something new every day.
Yep.
Okay, so anything else on that topic before we move on to, I guess, did we already cover primary voting? I think we kind of did. Oh, no, we didn't. That's a separate topic. That's separate.
Right.
But I don't want to jump to that if anybody has any other questions before we move.
I just wanted to ask about whether we were still doing meet the candidates and candidate bios and all of those things.
Yes.
So, yes, I'm expecting to get the list from Brittany first thing in the morning or maybe later tonight. And then I'll start emailing all of the people who have put the information in with the new deadline for the candidate bio. If we do a mailing, it's not going to be the full bio, so I might have an abbreviated version. And then we have a Meet the Candidates night scheduled via Zoom for the 27th at 6 p.m. And that's on our calendar, and we'll start publicizing that again beginning tomorrow as soon as we know who's on the ballot.
And that was May 27th, Kristen?
Yes, that's a Wednesday, right?
All right.
Yep.
It's our intention to try to put out a mailer, quick mailer. Again, our deadlines, everything is just so tight this year. We'll have to see what we can put together. We have a budget letter. We're certainly going to put this all up online, but we would also like to put that in people's hands. I think it's important to send something in the mail. So we'll put that together with the candidates, the shortened bios, a copy of the budget and the budget letter. Sort of what would go in the footnotes, but only that.
And you're talking about sending it out in paper copy, not an electronic version. I agree. I don't
Definitely
think
will
that's-
put it out electronically. It will be widely available electronically, but we think it's important to put that out in paper.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, so I think now we're ready to move on to primary voting.
Right. So just as a basic question, I received contact from the Albany County, and there's a facilities use contract that they put together each year, MOA, that talks about the elections, and they are interested in knowing if we are still available as a primary for the June to host the June primary in our building. So I put together an email to all of you saying, were we to choose to do that, the conditions under which I think that would be done as safely as possible. I did talk to some of the other libraries that are also polling places, and some of those libraries are choosing not to be polling places this year.
yeah, so that was a question I had. It's like, do we have the ability to say no?
I think we do.
I mean, the town hall is going to be a polling spot, right? I would think.
They also are traditionally. I don't know what their decision process is on making that available. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be worried about saying yes to that at this point without further information about, conditions in the town, frankly.
So pardon my naivety about this, but so my understanding is that the primary in the state has been moved to mail-in ballots, but the idea is that you have until that day to submit them, and there has to be a public place to bring them personally. Is that the idea, or?
No, I think that there's still an option to vote physically. And again, I'm showing my ignorance here a little bit, but they're definitely asking if we have the ability to host the primary.
A traditional primary. I see. I didn't realize that at all.
There's I understand there's a federal court case outstanding that may force traditional primary as well as the mail-in option. So.
I see. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Because in addition to the presidential primary, of course, there are a number of local primaries that are happening all over the place too. So those are
Right.
included in the same ballot.
So I agree that I see some real things that would give me pause, for sure. And the one thing on the other side of the scale that occurs to me is I know I get a little bit unhappy when I find out my polling place has changed. And of course, there's also right the issue of voters who aren't very I don't want to say low information voters, but voters who maybe aren't as up on following politics, finding out the day of the election that their polling place has changed and they can't find it and don't vote. So that would be a possible side effect of our deciding not to perform this role. That gives me some concern. I don't know that it outweighs other concerns I have on the other side.
Fortunately, I think the decision timeline on this is very short. By the time we come back to our next board meeting, it will be probably very too late. I don't mean to add pressure to you, but it's I think just very, very briefly outlined, if we were to host the primary, I can't see being open as a library that day. And we're trying to throw that football into the future to guess by the mid-end of June, what the world's going to look like and how open the library would be at that point. But I can't see being open as a library at all. And the way I would advocate to do that would be just, go ahead.
Yeah, I would move to decline the opportunity, actually. Make a motion to decline.
And is that, Mark, because the library won't be at the point of being able to open? Or are you worried about contamination, or what's the?
Both. I think both. I think, I would worry about spread and contamination. I also would worry about we should open the library for the library's sake. And I would, not to host a primary that could be, people can go across the street and vote at, frankly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And another factor is that there's not going to be as many in-person voters no matter what, right? So there isn't going to be the need for the number. It's not that we're going to be creating some kind of really serious, terrible need by declining, I would think.
I think there are going to be, just speaking in my non-expert way about this, I think there's going to be a number of issues with this election, including the ability to find poll workers. I think is going to be a challenge, and there's going to be some challenges with this one.
Maybe I'm kind of naive about this. I have a question back to the board, and it's not, I really am kind of neutral about this, which way we go. But I tend to ask myself sometimes, what do we think the voters would want us to do in this situation? How do we think the voters would expect the public library supported by taxpayer dollars? What would they want?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. When you think about it, I think first they would want us to be a library. If we, I would not want to shut the library down for an election activity, which I think you'd have to do. So if we can open, if we can be open, then I think we should be open then and not have to shut it down for a primary that not many people are going to show up for.
So do we think that around that period of time we might be open? Do we think there's a fair chance we could be open?
What's the timing exactly?
June.
I think it's June 23, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you have a shot. I think, depends on a lot of factors, obviously, but.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking the library wouldn't be open at that time. So I was looking at it like differently, like maybe we should provide a forum for the taxpayers. But on the other hand, I do think our first priority is library business. So
yeah.
There is a possibility we would be open in some way, shape, or form, even if it's limited to curbside pickup. That is still an open capacity or open categorization.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that this can be viewed as a political decision? I mean, the primary is a political football in itself. People have differing opinions on it. I don't know if you describe it as a contentious primary, but I think the circumstances surrounding it are highly political. And you know, we're there because a court said we had to be. That's what's happening. So I don't know if that plays into the decision at all, if the library wants to jump into that fray or not, especially if it's not open.
Do you mean, Caroline, that by not agreeing to host the primary, it would seem that we were siding with the DNC and supporting not holding a primary at all?
Well, I think no, not in not deciding it, because I don't necessarily think it will be a big public thing if we decide not to, but in hosting it, you know, there's the strong possibility of protesters. There's the strong possibility that this just doesn't go well. You know, there were some unpleasant scenes in the news as of late at local elections. And, you know, I guess it is somewhat of a question of whether we want that to be the first view of the library after it's been closed for 3 months.
Yeah, that's why I think we should just pass. Too much unknown, you know, not going to be a big deal. Not many people. I think you're right, Jeff. You got to close the library to do it. So.
Yeah, there's no way I can, just from a practical standpoint, we're going to be using, I can only imagine by that point, were we to be providing, for instance, curbside pickup, and to provide the amount of social distancing we would need to have, as I'm guessing, at that point, we will be using all of the meeting rooms for different tasks that are not normally what the community room and boardroom are used for, and that's where the election takes place. So it would have to be in a hallway. That would be the only place, the only space that I have left open that I can lock off from the main part of the library. And I don't know if they want, I mean, so I wouldn't even know if the county election would want to be holding their election in a hallway. So, but there's no way we could be open as a library at that and have that going on as well.
Do we know what other locations they're looking at?
I think all the other locations that they normally have as primary locations. I think they're sending this contract out, goes right now. Just I received it, you know, and it's never really been a question before. Of course, we're a polling place. That just sort of, even if they move the date, that sort of takes precedence. But this is the first year. You know, I don't know. I do know that there are some other libraries in our region that have said no. So,
does that imply that some have said yes?
I didn't hear anybody say yes, but I didn't want to be definitive because I haven't done a formal poll.
Okay.
This morning at the Directors
Okay,
Association.
that's a fair answer.
And, the replies that I had were to the negative.
Well, I can imagine that there would be some optics that if we were unable to open the library to Bethlehem citizens, except for curbside pickup, and then we turn around and have a primary, I don't think that would be particularly well received.
Right.
I think it's very likely that if we're providing services by this time, which I really sincerely hope that we are, it will be curbside pickup and not access, not allowing the public access to the building.
I think that's a big factor right there. At that point in time, we as a library serving the community are not ready, equipped, and willing to open up for general public use.
Yep.
Yeah, just thinking through the mechanics of it and the way our building is shaped, it seems extremely difficult, if not impossible, to have any kind of really safe mechanism, right, to set up a polling place and maintain social distancing. And if we had a giant gymnasium or something, right, you've got a lot more options. We would essentially be doing it in a hallway.
Yep.
Right, and it just, yeah, doesn't seem like it would work.
It's not like that front entrance is really conducive to people doing a loop in one door and out the other. It's that just doesn't work. Okay. And I don't think we're particularly well suited to help in a handicap situation. You know, certainly that would not be conducive to using the hallway. So Jeff, do we need to vote on this?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I made a motion to decline opportunity.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? None. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. Okay. Any other new business?
Just
Yeah.
one. It just came in today. So the use, I've been talking about Hoopla, this the new ebook and e-audiobook platform that we have available. When Upper Hudson voted to open it, to create this account, they were guessing with the best information that we had available about how long all of our contribution would last. Upper Hudson made a contribution into that out of their coffers to sort of sweeten the pot and get everybody on board. But our collective patrons have been using it faster right now. The money that we all chipped in to have this service would expire. That money would all be used up by the end of June. So in order to make our 6-month commitment, they're asking for a proportionate share of use based on actual use statistics now that we have some. And our public is, as they always are, incredibly enthusiastic about using the service. And so our contribution to that would be another $5,700 that would be billed to us by Upper Hudson. And that would, that is the projection that would see us through the end of that 6-month contract. And again, I'm anticipating that e-content use would continue apace even after we are able to return in some form of service. So this is my strong recommendation that we chip in to this collective service to the tune of $5,700. And I think it's being well received by our patrons and has been extremely popular. Again, no waiting lines, there's no reserve time for the content. So I think that has been very popular with our patrons. So.
And that is for what period, Jeff? 5,700 covers what period of time?
Covers us. So the product began in March, so that would see us through the middle of September.
September.
Yeah.
Okay. And if we didn't do it, it would.
If we didn't do it, then then eventually, then our library would be our patrons would be knocked out of the service and would continue for those libraries that chose to continue to buy into the service at that point.
And we would be knocked out as of when?
As soon as the money runs out, which we're projecting to be sort of the end of June.
End of June. Okay. So essentially $5,700 is for July, August, September.
You got it.
Okay. Okay, discussion, or do we have a motion, or what do we want to do?
I'd like a motion from somebody. It's over my, it's just $700 over my authorization limit, but you know, I don't know, we can discuss in the future if we decide to continue the service, which again, it's being so popular with your patrons. I think I will be advocating for that in the future. So it becomes an ongoing purchase and a little bit of a different type of purchase. But I think for now it's new enough. I wanted to come back here and have the discussion with you. So yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue for till September. So.
Right.
Can I just ask one question before we vote on this? Is $5,700 a fixed number, or is it an estimate? Because
it's an estimate based on use, right? So
okay, so we really want to be voting, I think, to cover the $5,700 or the actual cost to extend it through September.
I think if we say that use continues, let's say we haven't reached saturation point on this, and use continues up and increases at an increasing rate, right? So let's say our public discovers this and they love it. And, I think I would come back to you if Upper Hudson, if that account was running out of money again. I would come back to you and seek another authorization for that. So it's really just we would be billed by the Upper Hudson Library System for $5,700, and that's the piece I need to vote on.
Okay.
Jeff, I just have a question. I mean, I support this and we'll vote for it, but just for my knowledge, are we seeing that kind of savings elsewhere in sort of acquisitions of physical materials right now anyway? I know you said you're purchasing ahead, but is that balancing out?
It's not balancing out. So we absolutely, this would be for this current fiscal year, because we're running out of fiscal year, it absolutely would be a net shift. This is not endangering our budget at all. We had a pause in purchasing, and I think anytime you turn that purchasing off, and they weren't sending us anything, so we couldn't get it if we wanted to, you know, and even though now we're turning that back on, we're beginning to receive some materials, we're way off pace of where we were. In addition, think about the money that we have had in the program line, you know, for performers and this sort of thing. So there are these pockets of money which would easily exceed the contribution for this.
Okay, so I think we have a motion, right?
Yep.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, Jeff, between now and September, as we get some more data on the Hoopla usage,
Yes.
can we just plan a short discussion of how it's being used, who it's being used by, et cetera? I mean, you could see this extending into next year, right? We're going to be talking about 20 to 30K of expense on an annual basis,
Right.
right? And just making sure that we're reaching as many people as we want to be reaching with this.
Right, and that's a little bit of that. We have more detailed statistics, and we're excited. Anytime we get more data, we like it. So we have some of that in the statistics we gave you. You can see the relative comparison to overdrive use versus Hoopla use, right? And as that, certainly by September, we will know about where that is, and then we'll be looking at cost per circulation. There is some content that is available in one platform that isn't available in the other platform, but there is some content that is available in both platforms, and we're looking at the best way to provide that. I think we had shied away from cost per use models in the past for the exact reason that we can't know exactly. It's opposite of lynda.com that charges us one price, and then we're responsible to make people use it. This is you pay per the use from the public. It's a different model. We've shied away from those in the past, but I think clearly nationwide libraries have decided that having a mix of these products so that you can best meet people's needs is the way to go. And we have that with Canopy and Hoopla and Overdrive. And even were we back operating completely normally, I would still be advocating for keeping all three of those.
Okay.
Jeff, have we had or feedback from patrons as far as these services where there is a monthly limit to how much they can use?
So I haven't heard that. I've heard some anecdotal pieces from the people who are using it that they are being careful and strategic about their 5 uses per month. I think Canopy less so. I think it's been a little less restrictive because of the limits. But I will tell you, so we have a limit of 5 uses per month. There are libraries that I know of from around the country who have taken exactly, we added this service. That was our response to the library close, and we added this service to a lot of libraries that already had it. They took off those restrictions and said, oh, instead of 5 a month, it's 15 a month now. So they're really opening up those services. I think everybody, we were heavily invested into Overdrive, which is just a fully different way to administer ebooks in the audiobook. We've been putting a lot of money into that, purchasing those copies, leasing those copies, and having them available. But then it's got request lists, right? And that, so that really appeals to some people. And then this other method appeals to some other people. So it's basically everybody around the country is just saying liberalizing your policies and making things more available, whether it's offering it to the first time like we did or writing up those. That's the trend that's happening right now nationally.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear people aren't dissatisfied at a monthly limit. That's good.
Yeah.
And it's per card too, so.
I think they were happy that we made it available, and I think eventually we may get that sort of feedback. Let's say we're a year into this and people love it. They may come back and say, hey, you know what? This 5 is really bumping up against those limits. And you library, you need to figure out a way to pay for this because I'd really like it to be 7 or 10 or whatever that number is. Right now, we are working hard to keep all of the parameters exactly the same for every library across Albany and Rensselaer County. We're trying to make this a very egalitarian way to have this. So far, all the libraries are chipping in. We're not having any fights about that. Even though we've had this additional cost to keep the service, I think it's just in response to how popular it is among the public. So going forward, at some point in the future, that may start to break. There may be some libraries that have higher limits and some libraries that have lower limits. But for now, we're trying to keep it as simple as possible for everybody to understand.
Okay. All right. Okay, so unless there's any other discussion, we're going to move on to old business. And we will talk some, Jeff, about the phased reopening plan.
We will. So we've been working hard even since our last meeting, which wasn't all that long ago, on our phased reopening plan. Upper Hudson continues to pace with their recommendations. And the plan that we had in place is we continue to update that. And then nothing that we had in our plan was incompatible with what Upper Hudson was recommending as well. One of the things that we hadn't originally factored in, but I think has emerged from our discussions, is that you'll be hearing me talk about redundancy. I think our plan is to come back when we come back with reduced hours, a reduced schedule, and the proposal is to have 3 different teams of staff people that will work on a rotation. So there'll be a work from home. 2 teams will be working from home in any given week, and 1 team will be in place, and that will ensure they'll work for a week. And that will ensure if the time comes when someone is sick and those folks have to quarantine, the quarantine period is 14 days. 2 other teams would give us enough time to cycle through that and get back without having to close the library. So that would give us some weekend times to make sure that we have cleaning to be done. And again, we are waiting for guidance on surface transmission. That is still all yet to be announced, and we'll be watching libraries as they reopen across the country. What's working and not working for them too, because right now Capital Region is lagging behind, even some other regions in New York State. So this is our initial dip our toe back into the water plan to have curbside pickup. I know it's the most common question that I'm getting from the public is, hey, how come we can't have curbside pickup? And I'm like, well, right now we can't under the executive order, but that is planned for. And it is, again, the goal of Upper Hudson to turn back on the courier system and have all the libraries in Albany, Rensselaer County reopen in a similar way at the same time. So that's, we have, being a district library, we have a lot more control over that than some other libraries. They answer to a city manager or a town supervisor or something. So, but we are trying to provide that unified reopening plan so that no one library, if the library opens early, you can imagine if a small library had to open early, they might get pounded on by everybody who was interested in library services. We really want to bring this all back online at the same time. So our first intention would be to the book drops, to get this unmet ability for people to return their items. We want to make sure we can do that. And then quarantine those items, sanitize those items as to the then current guidelines when we can finally get to this point. And then the first service that we would offer would be curbside pickup. The first soft opening piece of that would be to take items that are currently on hold, that are sitting on that hold shelf and have been for a month and a half or 2 months, and get those people to come in, use them as our test subjects for the process of the curbside pickup, and then slowly build on the success of that, get the reserve system working again. That's whether Upper Hudson turns on their courier again, how that works. What happens if at another library someone gets sick? How does that affect the courier system? There's just a lot of moving parts to this right now, and they move along most of the time seamlessly and unheeded, and turning the system back on is going to be a little bit difficult, take some time. So
Jeff, how are you going to, how's the first of all, this sounds like a great plan, and the 3 teams, 1 week each, just brilliant. The one question I have is how will you avoid getting slammed with returns all at once? Are you going to stagger due dates, or how are you going to do that?
So Upper Hudson has already staggered due dates for that exact reason, but I have a feeling that once we turn the book drops open, once we make them open, people aren't going to care about their due dates, right? There's a stack of books that have been sitting on the dining room table now for 2 months, and people want them out of their house. So, I think there's really no way that we're going to avoid a tsunami of that. We're just going to have to do it carefully. And that's one of the things is, for instance, we anticipate using the community room as the quarantine sequester room for these returned items, right? So we have to have some elbow room and space in order to take all of these returned items that can't be put back on the shelf. Like normally we can just get them checked in, put them back in on the shelf. We have staff that are fantastic at that. We are not going to be able to do that. We're going to have to inherently have a lag time in that, and being intentionally slow about these things is a little bit hard for us. So that's those are the rooms that we normally have available to the public. For instance, the boardroom we're going to be using as the shipping and receiving room. So books that are coming in from outside, that's where they're being put right now. So they're being put in there. So we're talking about how we're able to bring that in. And of course, the fewer staff people that we have in, the easier it is for us to social distance both in space and time. And that's our intention, to have different shifts and different, allow that spacing. So I think there will be a tsunami of returns. We will be doing our best to handle that as best we can. So
is there a way to use messaging to kind of urge people to delay returns, or to have a kind of clear statement of what the library prefers, knowing that not everyone's going to listen? But
I think we can absolutely say that, and we will be extending due dates for the foreseeable future, right? We're not going to force that back. There's no fines. There's no, forcing back where people are going to be in that weird situation. But I think we keep kicking those due dates forwards, and we say to people, hey, the book drops are open. If you're okay keeping them, please feel free to do that for now. We'll begin to get those things back in. I mean, of course, right now, if we were to do curbside book drop, the best part of that is everything in the library hasn't been touched by a soul in well over whatever the sequester period would need to be, right? All of the things that are in there have been sequestered almost inherently. But as we begin to mix back in items that are maybe under a short time of a sequester, people's tolerance for that, even though we say our best guidelines that we have available from the CDC or from the health department, whatever the best guidelines we have on how long we have to sequester and in what ways we can be cleaning the material, individual people's tolerance for that is going to be, we have to navigate that somehow. So that's a whole, the politics of that is a whole nother issue.
I had a question about the actual book drop.
Yep.
You need to, I was thinking maybe you need to build something in the parking lot or something to handle all this inflow. And could you separate I'm like a larger book drop for this period and sequester it by day or something, or just, I don't know if you have do you have the physical capability to take all this stuff at once?
Well, we can't take it all at once, but we have the physical capability to take quite a bit. And that's why we're looking at those different parts of the building. For instance, the community room just lends itself really well.
Yeah.
And we would absolutely be sequestering it by day to say books that came in on this day are going to be in this corner, and then this corner, and this corner. The question I've got is always, there's never enough carts anyway. So the books are going to have to come in, be moved into that room, put on the floor, put on a table, something, and then have to be recarted later as they go to be checked in. So,
but when they come in through the regular distribution, I mean, is there a way to they come in through the tube, the drop and the
Yep.
container?
Yep.
I think that's enough to handle it. I mean, you might get too much to that.
The outside book drop will absolutely, it almost can't handle it now. There isn't a bigger one for me to get. And that is the
build
biggest,
like a shed or something, whatever, or you could build some sort
maybe
of big square box or something,
say put them through the slot.
Build like a temporary book drop that you can take down when you have to.
It's a good idea.
Those giant industrial laundry carts,
Right. Yeah.
Right.
on wheels, right? You just fill up your pallet worth of books and wheel the whole thing into the building, and then don't touch it for a week.
Yeah. You got it.
You might be able to borrow some from the colleges. They're not using them right now.
Okay.
Jeff,
Yes.
Better World Books, is that book drop currently actively being used?
It's shut down. We put tape over the top of it for that exact
I
reason.
would like to see it continue to be shut down because I'm afraid people are going to get annoyed. They can't fit them in our book drop and they're going to drop them in there. And,
Yeah.
I returned it there. I put it in the wrong bin.
Yep,
Yeah.
you got it. That was why we taped it off right on the first day. That was, people were definitely wanted to return. We've tried to put out signs at the library and our messaging everywhere to say, don't return, but that there had to be something physical when people get there to make it very clear that we're not accepting returns.
Okay.
We have had as I said, we have had a few people who are moving out of the area permanently. And so we've had to have them clandestinely drop their books off, have a special time for those books and drop them outside the back door and drag them inside. So, but generally speaking, mostly we've said to people, can you leave it with a neighbor? And they've said yes. So that's been working so far.
Okay.
But I like the laundry cart idea. So
Good luck. Good luck
Yeah.
on that one, Jeff. That's going to be taking all that stuff back's going to be tough because I agree with you. Everybody's going to want to get rid of it.
so much of our entire operation counts on juggling, having them in the air, right? A third of the collection at any time needs to be out and about just so that we're not swamped, right? So even the slight variations that happen between July and December, which are our busiest and slowest months, makes shelves stuffed or empty depending on how busy they are. And you can imagine if everything comes back at once, just how, not being able to keep those balls in the air. It's going to be a challenge.
One of the things, if I can just be indulgent for a moment, one of the things I feel like I really have learned as a member of this board is the complexities of circulation. I never thought before how much a library wants stuff out, right?
Yeah.
And for the last 2 months, really, the whole community has really been, every house has been an annex of the library.
Yes.
And it's just an interesting way to think about the way in which the library is the community and the community is the library.
Yeah, it's absolutely important and critical and fundamental. There's no way we could have the collection we have. It's one of the reasons. Let's take the changes to the video policy in the past, where we lengthened those loan periods, and we allowed ourselves to have more things out in the community at any time, allowed us to have a bigger collection, right? That's exactly, we could have a greater variance. The more we can get into people's hands, the more we can have.
Jeff, outside of the typical collection material, any thoughts about how we would extend that to the library of things or laptops? And see, people who don't have internet access at home or electrically connected or wireless devices, right, are probably the big losers so far in the ability to access.
No, I mean, the digital divide is, this is the role that we have not been able to fill, right? And we're patting ourselves in the back, say, look, we have Wi-Fi out in the community. Look how it's good Wi-Fi. We have it available in these different places around the community. But for those people that don't have a device, they are not being served. And then we have questions about that exact thing. How can we circulate something like a laptop? How can we sequester and clean that? We're waiting for guidelines on what that takes to get those sanitized appropriately. And all of those library of things, you got it. How can, their books are probably, it's a knowable thing, and each book is largely like every other book, but that's not true of the, all of the library of things are all very different. And we're going to have to be looking at how we circulate those too. I mean, right now, the few people that have the Wi-Fi hotspots, unprecedented access, right? They've been able to have it now for a couple months because their due dates have been extended too. Anybody with a museum pass, had they been able to go to the museum, would have been doing months of museum attendance. But it's, that's the part that really breaks my heart right now, is I know how many people cannot access the public PCs. And then one of the things I'm thinking about is curbside book drop first service, right? So that's great for people who want to pick up books, movies, things. Let's say we even include library things, the Wi-Fi hotspots and the Chromebooks. How can we get those out to people who need them? Great. How do we provide a public PC for people that is going to be used for a couple hours, and then they stand up from that, and then someone else comes and sits down and uses that? What's people's comfort level for that going to be going forward? How can we ensure that, we're disposable keyboards and mice? It's we're trying to, you use it once and you throw it in a bin, and we sanitize it over the night, and we come back the next day and you have a fresh keyboard. That's a lot of keyboards and mice, but that may be what we have to do in order to provide that service, because I know that there's a lot of people in our community that just don't have access right now. It's killing us. So
I need to sign off for a call. Sorry.
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
Mark, good to see you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I think that we are, so we do the reopening plan. Does that include the two subcategories, UHLS and libraries in New York State?
We talked about the UHL's plan a little bit, about the courier and all of that, and then the libraries in New York State reopening phases. We are still unsure where in, we stop talking about our phases right now and start talking about the governor's phases. He's got 4 phases of this reopening. We still don't have firm guidance yet on which phase libraries fall into. Are we education and entertainment, in which case we fall into phase 4? And what all of our advocacy groups, the Library Association and the library systems, are sort of saying about public libraries. What we're trying to advocate for is that something like curbside pickup is much more like a retail function, and therefore can fall in an earlier phase in a safe way than our roles as a community center programs or meetings, public meetings for people. Things where we would be gathering large groups of people into the library. So it may be, what we're sort of saying is that what we do isn't all one thing, and it may be that we certainly have them in our phased plan ourselves, but even under the state's plan, where libraries slot in is still not an assured thing. But we're Our state groups are advocating for us and trying to seek guidance with that right now. And I will pass that on to you as soon as I have that, because then we'll be a little bit clearer. You can start to begin to guess the day, right? I don't think the capital region is going to be May 15th, but then what would be the next round? Well, that's phase one, starts on the end of May. And then we can begin to guess from there where we might fall into their plan.
Okay. All right, moving on to long range plan steering committee.
Sure. So the steering committee met on the first, just a bunch of us without Paul to really talk through the drafts that he had put together and share some things we liked, things we didn't like. A couple of items just to highlight here. The children's area, a couple of the drafts that he had the children's area essentially separate from the library proper. That felt like a suboptimal design, because we use the children's area and the children's section really to pull parents in with the children, right? And sort of, increase the foot traffic into the library. So you're going to share that feedback with Paul. Some discussion about the teen space, right? Keep the teen space near the children's area. How do we manage daytime programs, keeping daytime programs, in the library proper and out in the lawn, sort of integrated with the rest of the space as we look at expanding either towards the Borthwick property or towards the lawn. So a lot of good discussion, I think, about what we liked and didn't like about his sketches. So my plan right now is to just put my notes into an email. I'll send it out to the board to give everyone a chance to add anything that I may have missed. And then we'll, I think, plan to review it with Paul at our next available opportunity.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thank you to the whole committee. Okay, Jeff, HVAC update.
So we're check is forthcoming from the final bit of the return funds from DASNY. So that is coming. As soon as that comes in, I'll let you all know. It may well be there the next time I go into the library to sort the mail. No, it won't be. It's coming on the May 15th check run. So as soon as it's mailed after that, it will be on its way to us. I have also followed up with our friends at the Division of Library Development to make sure that we have done everything we need to do in order to get that final 10% of our construction grant back from them. So we have two pots of money that are imminent. I think the DASNY money will be here first, and then the money from the Division of Library Development will come in as it can. But they're all working remotely right now too, but I have been in contact with them via email. I think we're all set. I'm going to go back, check one more thing. They had some questions for me. They also don't have access to their files. So I'm going to check one more thing that I have, make sure I did what I need to do. And they said it wouldn't hold up our check anyway. As soon as that would run, it would come to us.
Thanks, Jeff. I don't think that I have seen the final project status report from DASNY showing all of the detail. I'm imagining that they are waiting until they cut that final check, and then they will send us a final report. I'd like the finance committee to look at all the documents and put together, the complete final spreadsheet, including the cost of design, showing what we got in grant money. So we have it memorialized for the future, exactly what our costs were, how we funded it, and how we got money back. Okay. Doesn't have to be done, in the next 2 weeks, but I just want to have that on the. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'll just say if I don't receive that when I get the check, I will reach out and to those folks and just make sure I get that final report so we can begin that review.
Okay. Thank you.
And also, I just want to let you know, as far as HVAC is concerned, I have talked to Kevin, who will talk to Train as our vendor for as we begin to come back. My goal is to get maximum outside airflow at the cost of temperature and humidity control, which normally you would not want to do. But right now, what you're looking for is to as much outside air as you can possibly get into the building, and that will be something they're going to come back to us with a proposal of what they might be able to do to increase outside air as much as possible. Now, you remember in the winter, we've been trying to decrease that to the allowable level because people were cold. But I think right now, safety is going to trump that. So.
Okay, I think we just need to have some signs and placards up around the library to let people know. But I think everybody would agree,
you
it's,
bet.
it's in the interest of everybody's health. So I think you're gonna get people that'll be willing to bring an extra sweater.
Yep, we want
Okay.
as much air exchange as possible.
Any other old business? Yeah. Any other old business, new business, anything for people they want? Oh, I have one question. Where are we with union negotiations?
We are in pre-union negotiations. So we met briefly with the two trustees on the committee. I met with them briefly to talk about a strategy, and then we'll be moving. I did then have a conversation with our attorney, and we will get it done as quickly as we can.
Okay. All right. Anything else people want to discuss? Or I need a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to end the meeting?
Motion
I'll
to
make a
adjourn. Motion. Can you hear me?
I'll second.
We were just getting started.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, I think we're all set. Thank you. Good to see everybody.
All right.
Good night. Good night.
So
all.
I'm going to stop the live stream now.